Hi, everybody. Hey. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Bronwyn Tate, and I'm a creative writing professor here at UBC. I see some current students, some former students, some colleagues, and some members of community. We're thrilled to have all of you here with us. I was thinking about how we're going to listen to a book that's about place and about violent displacement, and that we ourselves are also in a site of violent displacement. So I just invite everybody to take a moment to think about where you've come from, how you came to be where you are, where you maybe were displaced, or maybe you or your family was involved in displacing, and what it means for us to gather here in a site where people have been displaced, to listen to a book that engages with violent displacement, and to sort of see the possibility for healing and for repair through poetry and through other ways of being active in the world. So you're joining us here tonight for the last whole cloth reading series of this year, but we're really pleased to tell you that we've been renewed for next year. Yay! Yeah. So if you're on our Substack mailing list, which is wholecloth.substack.com, you'll see some emails about upcoming events. We might also ask, hey, our dear participants who come and listen, do you have ideas of readers that you would like to hear? Are there books that would work well for this space? So keep an eye out for a little email with a survey. We've got dates reserved. We'll be starting to make invitations. And we've got some exciting plans for next year. So we're so happy to have you here this evening. Please stay, listen. Reading a whole book can take a minute, so if you need to go use a washroom and come back, please don't feel at all embarrassed. We don't want anybody sitting there suffering, just like, how many more poems? No, we want you to be able to enjoy yourself and settle in. So please do whatever you need to take care of yourself. And then also after the event, just across the little breezeway there, there'll be a reception with coffee and tea, some cheese, some snacks, a chance to speak with Jasmine, speak with one another. So we'd love to have you join us for that if you're able to. And thanks so much. Now I'm going to turn things over to Ellie, who will introduce Jasmine.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Ellie Crowley-Gardner, and I'm so excited to see this crowd of listeners and co-creators of this moment. It's a radical thing to gather together in the name of poetry, and I'm so excited we're doing this. So it all began 2 years ago when I did an off-site reading at AWP with Jasmine, and that's where I got to meet this brilliant, brilliant person, and I've been a fan ever since. So at that reading, she projected a looping video, an image of a black cowboy as she was reading, and it was utterly poignant and exciting and unforgettable. South Flight, Jasmine's debut collection, a finalist for the 2020 National Poetry Series and winner of the Georgia Poetry Prize, selected by Ilya Kaminsky, is flooded with blues and music. And this evening, we're lucky enough to have musician Hannah Ramone joining us to accompany the reading. Hi, Hannah. Jasmine, who's from Oklahoma and now lives in Seattle where she teaches, considers herself a docu-poet. Her creative work is invested in interrogating the diaspora of Black Americans in various historical contexts and eras, while reclaiming what was once dispossessed from the margins of the archive. Ashanti Anderson, who introduced us, author of Black Under, says Jasmine Elizabeth Smith has courageously penned a conversation between the forces of migration and the spirit of staying put. Like Mama's hot comb, South Flight is all at once delicate, deliberate, and searing. How else could I forewarn the vicariously nostalgic ache of the rot gut of harvest and bathtub water gin, the discomforting itch of Dresden quilts, muslin gloves, and cool starched collars, and its tireless interrogation of violence, despair, hope, survival, and even love, South Flight begs necessary questions, such as, how might I chorus hornets into sonnet? And is our beauty so vain it a form of resistance? If you want answers, you had best bend your ear and be still, lest you get burned by Jasmine's potent delivery. A little background. Jasmine received her MFA in poetry from the University of California in Riverside and is a Cave Canem and Black Arts Fellow and a recipient of the Gluck's Art Fellowship. She's an associate guest editor for the Black Earth Institute's About Place Journal and currently serves on the 25th, or this might not be appropriate anymore, but served on the 25th anniversary Cave Canem Fellows and Faculty Committee. She's been published widely in an impressive collection of journals and hosts Baby Poet, a podcast with Brenda Delfino. One thing I know about Jasmine from chatting and from Instagram is that she loves being in nature and loves hiking and connecting with the forces out there. I also know this because when she pulled up last night and I was unable to be here to greet her, she said, "I'm standing by the big tree with the blossoms." And I was like, in my mind's eye, thinking, oh my gosh, Green College is such a beautiful place. I'm not sure which tree that could be. But it was quite sweet. And I can't tell you how much it means to me that Jasmine's here to read this work in its entirety. Welcome, Jasmine. Welcome, Hannah. Yay.
Thank you all for your patience, and so much gratitude tonight. It is a very rare opportunity to read a collection from start to finish, and also in collaboration with my fantastic friend and also fellow artist from Seattle, Hannah Ramon, who I will shortly introduce. But thank you all for being here in this deep practice of listening. Also, thank you to those of you that I call family who have made the long journey here. Some of you from across Canada, some of you from Seattle as well. And also to UBC and the Green College, to Ellie and to Bronwyn, thank you so much for believing in this work. And I would like to introduce Hannah Ramon. So Hannah Ramon is a singer, songwriter, pianist, a recording artist, musician, educator from the land of the Duwamish, Seattle, Washington, who channels inquisitive, experimental, healing pop songs and supports others with multidisciplinary artists with musical production and improvised soundscapes. And there is so much gratitude, for the quick turnaround and collaboration in this project. Thank you for bringing this to light this evening. And without further ado, let's try this out. Yes. South Fight, Blacktown Blues of Oklahoma. My tongue's survival of rag holler, my teeth spoon metals stronging, my ache sundown. Lord, let this song of mine cross some darkened lens. Gospel, call it little candle. Let sounds I make lamp pitch and lighten ears of those who cup Atlas canning jars to back doors. Tongues of dust turn my heart's bowl. I am the first to admit this ain't no gospel, but might my song simple it might be. Choir doves up yard, quicken Oklahoma air like prairie. I pray my eyes ring witness 21 fresh water roots against forgetting this home I once called South. Jim Water makes Parable of Seed, March 13th, 1921. What remains of blacks through these parts ain't much. Soil loam and even seeds refuse to press melon rinds. We press hard just to see us run. Forgive me, be this frankness. I know you rather talk scripture. The hijacked price of sugar, how to set seething broilers for sauce, but even an Eden Eve come to know what she wasn't, sweetness of flesh. Bitterness of pits taught her no such thing as the call of paradise birds in the exile of classed wild. You'd have me play your minister. You'd have me pray something sprout out this stalk. But tell me what happens when your hope for me sprawls big as South, yet this kind of living makes me smaller than a chickweed seed. Beatrice's prayer to be reborn in the South as an old cypress, April 21st, 1921. Sometimes I pretend that I am made of a sturdier thing, cast iron, good work boots, your papa's plow, summer he pulled cut through fields on his own back. Wide-waisted, an old cicada cypress can't be rounded by belts or gingham dress ties. A cypress tree does not fail in an ice storm, or when wind spools the North Canadian River over every crop and front porch. You see, it does not tell of secrets like termites, wood ear, the skirmishes of broadcloth skirts, your loving hands, or who hangs, face near and looming, like ripe casket fruit among the webworms, and even your trapper blade can't cut the heart or the ugliness we have come to know, and for what it's worth, much less our names. Beatrice Vernadene Chapel. Jim. Beatrice repents on the behalf of nature. You see, the preacher says, reckon the wayward children warned about, good measure about a blues woman. Unclean she who worships a body sings herself soft into back rooms. Best to weary the barnyard sounds and the songs have her as her jaw grows and shrinks according to the many breeds of her hunger. And even yet, more cussing, her legs spread in sharp key for any who will eat. Jim, I used to be a church-going woman. Roll my nylons beforehand so they wouldn't run to the knees. Used to button the collar of my Sunday best. But now, I ribbon Cape Jasmine to my bridge, undress the steel stride of your quick hands. Their scale is my ruin. Greenwood ghosts dress their Sunday best. This no parade for your pleasure. No one brinds up brass bandstand celebration. And this no market we knife melon sample, or haggle down our price. Aspirin, lady hands, leather of Louise half heels, bit o' honey, salted seeds from Ferguson's drugstore and Grier shoemaker. Up here, no one hunch their backs, low eyes, pantomime themselves like a minstrel or maid. We don't give. We grandstand our own streets, headlining Tulsa Star's newspaper, Attorney Spears, Sadler, and Chapel. We call up Lazarus from the dead, Blue Bonnet, Gurney in Frisell Hospital's basement. And just seen to be seen, we filled out, we bright enough, we golden weed, we oil reserve, we keep no time, we bronze shoe shine, gospel, we holy spirits broken from the mouth and matchstick Bethel Adventist church pews. And pass Arbor and Hardy barber shops, Carter billboards, Hardy's furnished rooms, Dixie theaters. Y'all have mistaken our procession as ghosts, envious the figurative you claim we isn't. So why do you stop and stare? Is our beauty so vain? It is a form of resistance. My girl, don't cry for me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? In the pines, where the sun don't shine. I cried the whole night through. Jim imagines a drink with lead belly after the lynching of Lloyd Clay. Take a seat, boy, and drink that you might hear me. Song is all story, and what story depends on who is in the room. You see, folks might stir their fingers a little bit, lighten themselves with 2 dimes from their wallet or a water weekend deal. And some girls might loosen hands to shorten up their skirt hems, tap a patent toe to tile, might even feel wild, like a calico of string plucked foreign and bucking in their belly. And I ain't saying they're wrong, but them folks always offbeat to our kind of holler. My black girl never slept in no pine. It the cruel needling of white folks keep her cold, and when I sing it, my girl never danced nicely to the song. And when I say that her husband was killed, I mean lynched. 1,000 men couldn't stand to see that boy go on with his kind of goodness. And when I say his body never found, I mean he gotten rid of in the worst of ways. No wet roll lodged in river mouth, nor he hung from tree a treaty flag his girl might washboard in widowing. He very well might have been soaked in coal oil, disowned by his people, his girl, a song, and isn't a trace left in this bridge of southern blues. He's been all swallowed up. Beatrice interprets a night terror, May 3rd, 1921. What good a dream if I can't interpret it? If each card I pull is a reversal, something bound to be ill-fated these days, Jim, what it be? My mind turned ill and folks mean. What's window broken, pain? What's rock thrown, rose? Who's next to be found washed up in the deformation of rivers dead? How I've taken to washing my clothes colored, lynching black half parts my misery and the rest. Oak galls, rust of nails, iris roots, and walnut shells. And should I martyr my unkind thoughts? I can't seem to trust no one, no thing, but this here mine. And if things were different, I'd be dumb as asters, blue-eyed charlocks, ironweeds, my heart be an open plain, and for you I would grow endlessly. Jim recalls a soldier he once was. We return from fighting, make war for democracy. We saved it in France, and by the great Jehovah, we will save it in the United States of America, or know the reasons why. Returning soldiers, W.E. Du Bois. Truth was, I wasn't ever much of a soldier. Never knew how to straighten a shot. Kickbacks scared me. Folks in my hometown used to joke I couldn't even keep my hands with bloody knots of catfish guts tackled down in Beaver's Bend. Honestly, made me cry. Stomach of their throats and mouths teeing open. My hands soft, but I'm quick as the Arkansas River. Moonlight, cicada music of storehouse dives, and old folks who still dream upstream of siblings gone missing down in Mississippi cotton bowls. Training down in Fort Seal, I'm ashamed to admit I was scared of using my gun. Other soldiers pushed me around, called me sissy, a flower picker, face up, tasting the trench. Asked if I even belonged in the service. These days, even the songs on the radio sound tired as me. Courage and bravery, simply the static catchline of songs. Their chorus, a boy whose back breaks like a vowel in the misstep of a grenade. I'm a musician collapsing my tongue against the promise of a soft woman wearing only stockings back home. Her delight, a badge I pin to my lapel. And there's no right in any of this. Back then, I carried my gun like a steel guitar, my fingers hard as iron tacks, listening hard for the life I had to take before it might take mine. Each slide, a slide to warp Nert's flats. And just like a song I said, no one right in any of this. I tried my hardest to fight this war as a field hauler. I called out, but this nation gave me no response. Beatrice contemplates the wild dog killing prey is based on the May 31st, 1921 incident in which mobs of white residents massacred the thriving all-black neighborhood of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the days leading up to the proceeding A common yet deadly trope occurred. Sarah Page, a white woman, falsely accused Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black man, of attempting to sexually assault her on an elevator. Blacks of the Greenwood community took a collective stand of resistance to the mob of white Tulsans that gathered outside of the county courthouse. According to witnesses, a white man approached a black man who was holding an army pistol. After a heated exchange between the two, the white man attempted to grab the pistol from its owner. They struggled and a shot was fired. Black residents were then attacked over a harrowing 24-hour period, and their businesses and homes were burned to the ground. An estimated 300 people were killed. June 1st, 1921. Yesterday, under scuff moon, a few wild dogs, hungry, followed the trail of prey miles over. Through basin bottoms, arsenic roots past water lines. What they willing to do to satisfy hunger? Mouth yolk, soft young and nest and chew the rock of their wrists into spoons. Jim, you claim war is fought on every storefront, threshold, train track, bitumen, state line. You say men must break hands, articulate their bodies into weapons. Yesterday, them dogs tore through Greenwood, Oklahoma. The break of back, dimity, and small, shared between multiple mouths. Town, burns, ground. And this constant sharpening, what of it? What of children? What of women? What become of me? Hold me near. I bare my neck and belly to your livid teeth. I ruin sweet spire and oak leaf, poultice them to eyes that I might become blind. Love letter on the eve of revolution. I am all of wanting these days. Only blues seems to make sense. To touch you like the parted vowels from harp teeth, I can't breathe, and therefore I am greedy for the passage of air. Clarinets cleared of cold coughs and low-down tonk house songs slapped out of my anger. How can a strangle chord progression picked in love sound like something other than violence? How might I chorus hornets into sonnets when my mouth feels like a containment, my tongue stiff and unsoaked reed? I keep trying to play every undigested place of our existence, but my tongue is so dogged out that even my notes flat and cruel. Will I draw or blow love struck? The fermata between your eyes and parting braids head northbound without turning back. I beget you what little I still have, my body throaty. A stage pathos at 2 a.m. The trombones bent melodies and riot of beaten drum skins of honest folks. This world makes sinners rambling. I know this blues sounds mean, but how can one love upon their bended knees? Beatrice begs Jim to pull out her bad tooth. You mistake my body as gladness, concavity, a spitting wet grin. My mouth, a cavity, a bleeding slice, airing crowns of rot and scrap metal abscesses. Nothing sweet exits it or goes in. Rinse of salt and cloves I apply to anesthesia. I beg your hands, 2 pliers, to master my mouth like a numb, bloody organ. I garnish you, sewing red threads from every bed door handle. And each time you enter, you pull out. Soon I'll be toothless and without bite, a token denturing your jaw. What is better, to keep on aching, or a milk-gutted mouth incapable of its own sounds? Jim writes his marriage vows. August 15th, 1921. Marriage don't sound like a streamer of tin bells cut from canned white fish or a cup of white rice. Ours is a different kind. And this, an August wedding, you will wear lace, but no good luck blue to. Clear the broom. Sleep the same bed, claim to have, but I just can't seem to hold. Beatrice, last night I named it a proposal. Your ring finger used to cork a half-drunk bottle of corn rye. When loosened to drink ourselves back to that celebratory rotgut of sleep, the bruise of bands hitched you, my sundown wife, and I said that this is our first dance, a makeshift tune of lonely steels and bickering box strings. Each our heels scuffing salt pork raw against all of our stepping upon each other. Beatrice, I can never tell if it is justice dance or fury as we wipe the royal icing of pig shit from our wedding dress in disappointment of bed, work, and yard. I do know our grief. Hereto, Beatrice Vernadene Chapel, from this day forward, for better, for worse, your bouquet bounds. My vows, Elgaic, I promise you, wrong and wrong don't make right. Woman, us can never say we do. Jim imagines a ghost of Robert Johnson at the crossroads. Y'all good folks tarry night long for every bottled neck bootlegger chew bad tobacco. Call his weeping want of moonshine woman the tuning key of blue. It easier to swallow hell than a body hang down by highway side. How it easy to say I part ghosts, 'cause my own low down doing. What bed I cuckolded for my soul, how much I wagered, a full gold record deal. My face cutting newspaper back pages, my need to enter through your front doors. What drives my back into a corner, devil or dread? I was never mine to sell. What crossroads I dared passed over in the first place. Beatrice advises fathers when Jim makes way to the crossroads. When he comes to town, your girl warn. Tell her, hold her breath, count backwards 10 till he out of her sight. Bible shame and pray the blood don't run her out of pure thread stockings. Church slip your home. Backhand her, best not sling them eyes dough or quilts colored ribbons through her hair wax. Jim might not be righteous, but Lord, he knows a suggestion when he sees one, how henbit, dart an ear, or a dress taken in. How even her hello suckles sanded horehound and slices of oranges. Papa, you better double fold them covers. You better cock his draft from your old door, 'cause when he enters, he stomps tracks on floorboards and bleeds bathwaters red. No matter how much your girl rinses, it is if you let a trap blade reopen her right up. Jim recalls his birth as a wasp, October 24th, 1921. Mama's pain, my first birthright, stung by a wasp month before she found out she was with child. I was the 9th, she pray I last to turn her open, river on bed. Clot milk silk acre her breasts long. I just another man's hunger she ain't got the means to feed. Cursing first breath, I came to blue choked bed cover apple reds. Been my experience, my blood ain't tender, too big for any woman to hold inside of her. Pitched in afterbirth fail, my spirit something far flung. And if I a man of sight, I'd sense my troubling way back then. And if I a peddler of porch herbs, pinch of this, mouthful of that, I'd give my mama a swig of love, sweeten what suffering done spit out, make her like moonshine. No man dead or alive swell her to feeling. A wasp isn't no bee. Don't sacrifice hurting others. Beatrice, I whole hives. Jealous tinfoil my eyes. Winds pinched back pin cushion if I don't take off. That my mama crush that wasp with the back of her hands. Better yet, let me slice backdoor air where I belong. How to break a generational curse, and other lessons my grandmother has taught me for Charlene Aislinn Urey, the recently departed. Never fall in love with a slave owner. Everybody always moving to the ownership of someone else. Never deny love to another. Even if you're broken, remember you are only yours to give. Always put a little dirt under your tongue, because God blessed it and it's one of the few things that don't hurt. Girl, never own a gun. Colts, carbine, and Remington bullet, you are your most powerful weapon. Walk in arms and in pleasure drink, but never consume in excess. May you never cut your flesh unless it is an act of survival or beauty. Never make a deal out of desperation. Be wary of medicine and men in armchairs who call themselves holy philosophers. May you never consume poison. Never take someone else's name, lest your ghost become their burden and theirs yours. Girl, speak, you're dead by name. Even though you are a woman, you stand on your own 2 feet. Leave home forever, but remember who you come from. Never leave without a fight, but never outstay your welcome. Destroy and create in the same right hands. Keep your eyes and your ears open. On your behalf, never let someone speak, but always listen closely to what your enemies have got to say. Don't start nothing, but honey, finish everything that comes your way. Father's Ghost sees Jim Water off at the Santa Fe railway station. When you finally leave, pack what little you have into a case. Cicadas clocking up your call time. Out east in Cherokee County, twisters spin spools of air. Lowland heifers and prize hogs rub the scent of storms, rising sheet glass tall. Reckon by tomorrow someone else will be dead. Pocket your grief and trapper blades, you fork dirt clots into scissored wings of flycatchers. Slice your lover's breasts in root of a Santa Fe ticket line. A woman's blood be a parable of freedom on every side of the color line. Go on now, take yourself, take the prairie fire trees, take the sorghum seeds and the lard crock for your hardness and time. Take her hearts. Survival ain't the same as stealing. Two, weeping for spilt milk, an interlude. Y'all, I don't speak French, so this is going to be messed up. Don't judge me. I have family from New Orleans, but so. Ils m'ont nommé la Marianne. They named me Water Girl. I ran away from St. Louis, and then I ran away from the United States because of the terror of discrimination and that horrible beast which paralyzes one's very soul and body, Josephine Baker. Child, I don't claim to be a mariner or anything of the sort. Remember the time I buoyed up half dead on the banks of the Mississippi River, slipped in thinking I'd retrieved treasure in some mud? I was resurrected by the Delta and once revived, sang blues, water drowned, carnations fauceted from the throat of dump bodies. And I ain't never learned to swim well, and like a dumbstruck girl walking the shore who imagines rows of sunken ships, flooded towns intact and gold tureens stuck in the heels of rock and reef, I still stick my hands into every new body of water. See what I might pull from their tide. Kelp, some bird nests, heart valve, cold shell, and even though I try not to, your bottled letters from back home. I hope Paris is treating you good. Round here, things just seem to keep on getting worse. You still sing those songs we love so much, and I don't claim that these legs have, since leaving, have learned to tread any kind of ocean. Today on stage, I appeared as one who walked on the Atlantic, the salt hot on my calves in the ear of water, and my song was something of all paddling up sex. And how them Parisians hollered, call me wing gold, Venus negress, light as oil, ils m'ont nommé la Marianne. But what the water obscures, the turning of ocean nettle, sea glass, the broken hull of a body as a boat. As I cried out in finale, the waves all but lifted me up. It wouldn't be a whole cloth if I didn't skip one poem, so I'm going to skip the next one. Sorry, not to break out a character. Indigo Farah. The slave's deadly contact with the fermentation and lye application process that transforms the plant into the commodity of dye, rendering it an exchangeable product that can be given measurable and nominal value in dollars. In the clearing, Black female bodies, space, and settler colonial landscapes, Tiffany Jeanette King. I want the indican color that built up plantations from swamplands. For my hands, blued in vats of boiled water, cuffed to yards of anneal steep cloth. To hold its hues, I must carry the thick sputum of dye from water to the scalded ringing of death in the outlets of fields. Big as mayhawberry, horseflies hang low, lick the rot of lye smoke and sieve steams, reminding me I must be careful not to keep my hands submerged for too long. History, as indigo clutches, fast clots poisonous in the pores and cuticle beds, it must be cleared like leadwort, dead red nettle, forget-me-nots, and the roots of 1,001 Atlantic crossings. The mutiny of heteroglossaic utterances, cyan tongue under deck. God's language is foreign both on sea and in land. Consonants, gold clicks, and vowels, English. What we no longer hear or care to know, how sharks once followed the salted blood bolts of boats across the ocean. From the Southern Slave Medical Companion. For worms, eat sugar-laced drops of turpentine in the afternoon. And for your general wellness, drink tinctures of horsemint and wild sage. To quit cravings for dirt, longing for home, clamp the red of your tongue with a clothespin so it doesn't come loose from the wash line. Bleed and cup your temples for grief and fits of apoplexy. To cuts both visible and those yet to be seen, apply vinegar, wet cloths. To purge many unwanted thoughts, dose bitter peach tree bark taken by spoonful every hour. To prevent pregnancy, lay motionless, hold brass pins, 6 copper coins under your lip as he takes his fill. Consume gunpowder, pellets of birdshot mixed with milk for 9 days. For unwanted pregnancy, chew the root of cotton plants, but if you do, and that baby stillborn, pray mercy, 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 and avoid them beds of sick houses at all cost. I do want to, because we're shifting a bit, not to break character, but just a content warning about sexual assaults. Mulatto. To be mixed is to have my mama's eyes and hair. It is a pale woodblock cut from my papa's blood. I admit he could have passed if he wanted, and that he was born octoroon between the color lines of the Rex Theater and the midnight showings of Louise Fever's Life Goes On. What I don't say is that when he was born, my great-granddaddy didn't let my great-grandmother bring him nowhere near his house, lest she track prints of dirt onto good house carpet. She was told to take off her shoes, wash her hands of that whitish baby, nursing the corner of a cardboard box in the Buick's back seats while headed towards orphan New Orleans, dressed in wiry crochet and new booties. To be half isn't always a loving story, and let me set the record straight, this isn't a Southern retelling. I scrub up my family Creole. Someone didn't love my grandmama, but her skirt and body spread against the pavement like a pat of margarine. Her size 3 penny loafers lost in rudbeckia, dandelion wet bobby socks, grosgrain ribbon fisted from her French braid. Mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, mixed is often to be carved in half. These things my kind don't recount. Drowned and Reborn is inspired by Clyde Wood's development Drowned and Reborn, the blues and bourbon resistance restorations in post-Katrina New Orleans. When the lower Ninth Levee Ward broke back in 1961, we prayed that we might become the slipknot of black water snakes. And because we had no hands, our venomous bites fastened, bayou rocking our babies, fettering them to pierogies, our fugitive bodies safe in maroons of cypre. And because we no longer had homes, we took the shape of swamp ghouls, scavenging the officers' badges, fortified what was left of our altering necks. Driftwood, plastic, the bloating bodies of idling government vans. That year, the watershed reached over 4 feet on Claiborne Avenue and Treme, 14 in the parishes of St. Bernard's. Hundreds of us became alligators, belly crawling the muddy velvet bowl of Bayou St. John when the prices of bottled water, gas, and canned meats rose. And because we had no tongues to speak, our rows of teeth grew longer, sharper, with expression. Some say we ate what remained of our dead, our hunger desperate. Imagine our opening mouths, our coarse-snagged jaws devoid of song, how a dirge might sound to some like a kill. Bodies seen at or disposal sites in lack of carnations after the computations as to the deaths from the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot by Dick Warner. and New Block Park City Incinerator on the east and west ends. Buried in Booker T. Washington, Rose Hill, Oaklawn, and Black Perryman cemeteries. Somewhere in Jinx, tossed in a river and buried in a sandbar. Under the railroad bridge, under the Arkansas River, and Standpipe Hill, Reservoir Hill, North Cincinnati Hill, Mohawk and Chandler Park areas. On the 11th Street Bridge burns. On the Katy Railroad tracks burned as well. Hidden in the Brady Theater basement on East 36th and South Peoria, between South Peoria and Riverside Drive on 41st Street, between East 31st and East 41st Street and South Lewis. Entombed in the mines on northwest corner of East 21st Street and South Sheridan, on northeast corner of East 21st Street and South Yale, on southwest corner of East 21st Street and South Harvard, and all along East Apache. Placed under other railroad tracks in the fairgrounds under the Reserve Building on East 15th Street. And a hole tossed in other mines, the ones in West Tulsa, south of Collinsville, between Catoosa and Claremore. Bodies seen passing Onetta and the Katy Railroad train and along the tracks west of Oakland Cemetery. Disposed on the pier west of Tulsa on West 3rd, between Tulsa and Sand Springs, in the hop clover and the wild violets. Rumors of mass graves near Crystal City and Red Fork. On the way to Sapulpa, Tracy Park on the southwest corner of Oaklawn, under the traffic circle at Mingo Road and East Admiral. All are disposed in mass graves of non-history. Historic white. Who wouldn't want to be painted in such a way? For two hands, feverish doves of acrylic, a mirror or a virgin form of an apple for a body, and wash of turpentines and ammonias baptize me. I don't have that much. Yet I can pay for this commission with my suffering, or my silence, my death. And when I emerge from a cleaning dish, will indigo and Mississippi red be released from the ferrule of brushes? Will I be something symbolic? My throat painted a garland of carnations, bird calls. Your unsight of my mother's kept me out of your galleries reconsidered. Zuzu. Ain't of no kind word in what they've been telling you. Heard they call you songbird these days. Part your beak and collar the long part of your neck with sapphires. When are you gonna see? You ain't ever gonna be one of them. Don't mean a thing. They pour you Prosecco and porcelain dishes, let you lap them leftovers from their palms. Do they pinch your sides to regurgitate the slug of white cake, candied roses, a big breast of hummingbirds, merchant the fetid smell of it into crystal? I heard their trade ain't much different from what's done here at home. Only difference is they prefer their black, rare, and chilled over ice, fine caviars knifed from the ovaries of the South, and Maybe at night you prowl the Turkish rugs dressed in chiffony lace, an ankle ribbon tagging you a rare specimen. Do they call you beautiful for one of your kind? Pocket your songs and measure your skin for couture? And for who do you think it will make statement when worn to Grand Palais Garnier? Three. Correspondence from Chicago, Illinois to Boley, Oklahoma. Postmarked February 22nd, 1922. Lord woman, sometimes you were too bright and I had to squint to recall the undone shape of that land. How the plow failed to rail cut for seed. The metal dulled when struck with stone. During the wet months, the thatched roofs of our tenants' homes leaked as your wanting of me, Beatrice, weren't no pail or washtub big enough to hold that kind of inn. In your midst, how a man keen to forget even the dirt floors of his place belonged to someone else. Your song, heavy on me twice, I almost forgot my daddy's name. Waters was the only thing my people knew of the state of Oklahoma through the parting of field songs after emancipation. Little we knew rivers, only drag red mud, no Moses. What remains won't soon be black in them parts. Jim Waters. Correspondence from Boley, Oklahoma to Chicago, Illinois. Postmarked March 19th, 1922. Jim, we all know the story of Brer Rabbit, molasses, and Applejack spoon by capful to cure a whipping cough, but I claim our ache isn't one old wives' medicine flight or prayers can shake. It rains last night, bottomlands all a racket as the strike of water force the vibrato on corrugated steel roofs like 100 metal mallet strokes of spoon bellies against the thigh. Hackberry and locust trees broke as if they'd ever stood upright in the first place. You finally flee that terror you claim, or like this weather, there is no break in it, just keeps on and on, cast down and cutting as you rush towards that loud and tatty stride of a northern city. Sometimes I want nothing more than disaster, this mudland due for cleansing in wait of some word, death letter. Just one letter, Jim. I'm not asking that much, and Jim, how all them blackbirds clap wet wings after rain, their necks breaking from beaks bold and fat with water, even after taking flight. Jim, I'm asking. The lane and Springfield like Beatrice and Jim. Beatrice visits the church. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Postmarked September 8th, 1922. I tell myself time and time again, Beatrice, there is always so much to be put up around here. Thickening upon a twice-rinsed dish. Ringworms of grease itch my supper spoons. Even my bedroom floors rash with dirt, and sometimes I barely got the strength to move this mess or dress myself for church.
These days, my grief has become a location, chewing at mud and current the Upper Acre Red River steamliners hunger for. My scrap rug, comfortable before its cook stove, all of the South. And how these days folks complain how I've come to care little for the concerns of others, what the front page says. How mothers claw black hats and dresses, fronts mute in streets, and what boy is vested in barbed wire, or what lack of his coffin is lifted upstream. But frankly said, I am unconcerned with using loss as a tool. Tired of planting, just plain tired of clearing a path for folks. You ever feel the satisfaction of not tending to, withholding to lick your own welts of milkweed with kerosene? Sunday, and the preacher man preaching, as with folks, it's all about what they take, the pass of an offering plate, and how much I am willing to give. Beatrice, why don't you light a paraffin prayer for all them poor souls you are blessed among women? Hoarding the tithe of my pennies until poor, I swallow the communion of wax I rubbed, an outed candlewick. Beatrice imagines Ida Cock pays her a visit at her dressing vanity. Girl, wipe them tears or the good Lord will really give you something to cry about. It's been my experience when you deny how anybody able he takes just to remind us of all that we've got. You're fine enough looking, and a decent person is easy enough to find. In times of trouble, call upon a half mixture of talcum powder and hazel water to lift that puffiness from your eyes, fresh hyanthesis, a bottle of gin, and song to invoke the patron saint of runaways and railways. Harriet Tubman was the first blues woman anyway, and she could have cried a lifetime when iron knocked the chorus roll into her head. But what she was given, she used instead: a teeth to bite relief into bullet, hands to wring weakness from runaways whimpering in dark acres, dare those backs turn back at border. So, go on, iron this messy dress, shine up those Patton shoes. You still got ears to hear heaven and a mouth to sin, so why not use both of them? Remember your mama wounded for anything she might call her own, your vanity table, ribbon for hair, a breast full of glass buttons, a corner of sugar cake to soften a new kind of song within her. And honey, I ain't saying it doesn't hurt, but it's a simple fact this world will beat you down, black eyes like jets stricken you blue. So Beatrice, will you hang your head or find a way all of your own? Bee's Ascension to Be, postmarked November 23rd, 1922. A cold come off a Canadian river, and even bees sicken on December, driving my feet back into wool. Beneath the teeth of floorboards and Weibel milk bottles waiting the porch, bees collect like bullet casings, snowing this home of mine a dying place. And for days in a row they lose their way in cotton patch and fence beans, and ain't a single compass left among them. Bees hailing up my windows, running my rooftops, socks of coins split down their seams. Jim, a woman of little waist, might hold the beads of dead into decoration to wear and yard while setting something to boil. she to hope that she might become something of flight, finding the broken beautiful. In her best heirloom drink, the insect wings hand-picked with thumbs of bottomland water. She to believe that something placed in her mouth makes it true. Hope, a man's ring finger, or even a myth. Ages ago, my folks believed women like me could climb air as stairs, or even when slaves, the briar and sawtooth Wichitas to sky. My people could fly. And I suppose I believe in this too, believe a be I become. Beatrice and Gladys Bentley discuss the fortune of living alone. Flush with cash before I was forced to disown myself in front of the whole world, dream was I could buy out Madison Grant out of his Minerva bus, convince the entire Harlem tenderloin of his unphilanthropy. To white folks, charity always looks like the throwaway crust of some hand-me-downs, no good to snack on or wear to Sunday school. And when I was younger, I was never one of them out of desperation to eat at the master's table played. I the kind to lift silver for when the emancipation come and reallocate silverware to edify the entire block. Reparations come too late, so I took the entire damn plantation. Those days it seemed I had my freedom, then some comforts of Italian shoes, raw silk suits, my hair a flash flood under my gentleman's hat, and even my fists heavyweight champions of gold rings. And I had a look and a song all the way of my own, buttermilk and way of lovers, come all the way up from New Orleans to feed me sugar cubes softened by gin and lick the space between my toes. But don't mistake this as an act of colorism. My girls were good girls, and if I was the kind to have daughters, I suppose that that's what they would have been. And anyway, I wasn't no sharecropper, but with the well of my voice, I was able to peel back the hardness of womanhood from each layer of their wet petals. There are far worse things than being fawn, father, lover, mother, sister, master. Back then, I was backpedaling the slave trade. I was their vessel. They were my passengers. I was a passenger. They were my vessels. And because there was no place in this world uncruel, it was certain that we must all leap overboard. 5. Jim imagines he and Charlie Patton pick a boll weevil from a backyard Chicago crop. A boll weevil ain't much different from you, Jim, hauled across state lines, wind hissing you from place to place. You brung nothing but the clothes on your back and a hunger so hooked, you blade 10,000 acres of Oklahoma cotton. Chicago or Kansas City graystones in just a matter of years. Hackjaw black man's work is never done true through ripening cotton bolls. Sundown curfews the heart of his women. And when farmers say, "Why do you pick my farm?" I got respect for a man or thing that got a little bit of plague in them. Eat through a bushel of arsenic or sheared fists with a ravenous mouth. Look white men square in the eye when caught with a mouthful, a parcel of land or cash and say, "I will eat, we will eat, no matter if plexed in keg of ice when burned down to an infested root." Jim Waters sweet talks Beatrice about the paradox of blackness, her good Lord, and gold. These days, a better man I'm striving to be. I found Christ bereft of the beauty up north and stretch of sprawling asphalt. Every acre this city away, and even alleys and avenues tilled black by Wall Street ethic. A proverb can't keep me, and I ain't no fool. There's money abundant, knowledge and far more precious things. My kin once speculated sorghum and cotton by the pound, sharecropped only to bury a handful of our pennies into the ground. I isn't that, and you is right. These northern Negroes, wrong as juice plums, isn't no shame in the sweetness of what they hanker for. Cash and mortared business fronts fatten tenfold hopes within their hands. Madam C.J. Walker, patron saint of paraffin and fat furs, packages, oil, curl cream, even in the grave. Her pearl knot jokes the lynch. Beatrice, kill me with this kind of richness. Instead of penny, can one change his name to gold? Jim writes Beatrice a letter that will never be sent. March 11th, 1922. Dear Beatrice, sometimes I scratch at the soft wedge between the forefinger and my thumb. Tongue-side, a lie bump rises. You know the saying, devil's braille go hand in hand with no kind of goodness. How the body of a man parses wisdom. There's money, getting soon, trouble, or someone to mess about his bed. And you hush, don't take the things I say so seriously. I just want you to trust me, keep us in my own kind ways. Some days I want to lug sweet water by barrel to your doorstep, by post send fat black envelopes of doilies, a fishful of smashed clementine, King Oliver's brassy song to play the Pentecost up from your skirts. And other days I just want to fix that chime of your throat, blue and wedding, keep you full of me. I never claimed to be much but my will, and love is another metaphor for land. You don't know its value until you cut into it. What undergrowth of water, alluvium, your bed unwilling limestone and clay, it unknown if man runs land or it is the land that runs him. Beatrice forges Jim's admission of guilt. April 1st, 1922. In a new place, one must quickly grab onto something familiar. Beatrice, remember, I never fond of swimming, and each time I jumped in, I clung to the lips of rock and drowning lines of bluegrass. I was afraid roaming undercurrents would pull me under if I was to let go. Best navigate what you don't know with a clear sense of direction, a lover's ripe smell, mouth sweet and swilled with whiskey, the downbeat of my own work song, and my hands as they didn't never much cared what they grabbed in purchase. The cattail as good as blue, and in these circumstances, the polyester dress slipped overhead just as good as yours. No mind the price. Don't you lower your eyes to my comings and going. Don't you think of me that way. Imagine us an uprising, everything done for good, cost after cost for the greater other. Jim. Jim prays a healing over B's affliction. April 30th, 1922. Behind these plucked fingers of chickseed and chickseed, you accuse me that I was the one who sprung your braids heavy, sifted you orb-weaving spiders in a gift of flower spray. Claim you I planted them in your pillowcase to bite and braille your ears, and in you to web another bad dream, worse than the awful state of these streets. You say I shook the salt cedars where below you sat, each brass-eyed ermine a kerosene bomb leaching down. My dear, it is 1922, and there are far worse things than your plate glass hearts I break over my hand. South and Greenwood are on fire, enamel cup and summer red. There is no second thought to pull the gun regardless of right or law. Another woman tucks her accusation in handkerchief wicks, its monogram trimmed to the Tribune's headline. In the burning mouth of isopropyl, it is flung through our sitting rooms and streets. And B, I know that you need me to be your enemy, for these things seem too big, too many for you to take on. It is easier to bicker the clementines and ground cherries I smash soft in love at your doorstep than look upon this world conditioned to break you and I conditioned to break. Correspondence from Boley to Chicago. Postmarked January 16th, 1923. I belong to you as much as I belong to him, and that is a palm full of moonlight men hunt under. To survive as I do, a woman must straighten lips to the seam of metal, tempering each part, keep her eyes steeled to all the cast iron cooking, feed her red mouth hungry, open and closed like climbing columbines. Remember, Jim, if you won't have me another will, pretty stories of Washab Avenue lifted 100 harlequin pigeons, or them body holler of rusted horns won't ever put up vinegar or crocks of lard on my shelves. Jim, don't take it personal how I throat the raw strip of the North, my wants of my home, how I take no promise from each stay of your cool starch collar. Correspondence from Chicago to Boley, postmarked February 13th, 1923. There are many times I wanted to look back, but was worried it would make spilled salt out of me. The drunks outside hotel lobbies, bull-eye pigeon nests for sport, throwing each into street and under boot, in order to hear their sickening wet against Washab Avenue. And Beatrice, if I a bird, I might twist on wire, show off the red rebarb of my tongue in some shrieking protests. And if I you, I might pick the shell from my heels, yoke the pieces back together again. But B, I'm just a man. I've had a long day on the factory line. It's a 13-block drag home, and I tire of the smell of smokestacks, shaved steel, pocket. My hands, they just cold. Jim. Jim revisits South. Postmarked March 27th, 1923. It's my absence that keeps me coming back to you when apart, how one imagines what is not. Like your mouth uplift of steel fixed to permanent shape. Your hand store-bought softness, your voice no time ticket or teeth punching shift. A tongue, a foreman threatening deduction. Simply, dear, you is the sweet ruse of song. When I visit this once home, my share yield a crop dearly. Melons large as moon under whose lights men make love until sleeping. And might my ankles twitch sheepish in pleasure, then shake furiously when I pin by my throat and hoisted like rafters in the hands of summer storms. When I come home from a long trip, you always be my welcome. In town, white men will tip their hats, nod them in greeting, and ask, Jim, how have you been, Jim? Beatrice airs out the house before Jim's return. Postmarked May 3rd, 1923. Before you visit, I must set things right. The fly door unhooked from its hinge, a napkin folded thick to lengthen a chair's short leg, and how I scrub one room top to bottom that even baseboards belvedere like clean church shoes. Wipe the fingerprints from water glasses, and I heard word that your uncle is salting a heifer and men tighten their hotbox guitar strings for your return. Jim, the North Canadian River might well be drained the way you take, and I suppose you think in a man's absence a woman will later need the calluses from his neck. From her bedsheet she smoothed worry. You trace letters on the insides of my wrist. Last time I saw you, I thought your nails welted dahlias of what we both might call kindness. Now I wonder only partially for what you wrote. Survival, a proposal, a Western Railway ticket, another woman's name. An inventory of her blues. Weep for the spilt milk in the Arkansas sweet water, while setting the brass kettle to the cook stove or water to cool Sears ice boxes. Inside, weeping crocks of smashed black clementines, Brer Rabbit, molasses, applejack, and lard. Weep for those who hang like hackberries and locust trees, their mothers wash black dresses and pillbox hats. For inkwells weeping letters onto yellow paper north. Weep for your vanity and neglected ring finger. Weep as you pick. Polyester slips of sweet spire, dahlias, hyanthesis at dusk. Weep for able men, their spades, rakes, and kerosene. Weep for bread. Weep for Josephine, Phyllis, Harriet, and Gladys. Go on weeping at church, onto your blackbird clean shoes, onto your collar stay, coat lace, into ringworms of communion wax. Weep when flushing termites from wood ear with vinegar. When hurling glass, buttons, pennies at the black dog humming your head, weep. Weep for rose-breasted grosbeaks and the orioles, for your nest of scrap rugs, ribbon and gingham dress ties. Weep for Greenwood, for yourself and me, I sure do. B contemplates a reconstructed South. October 19th, 1923. Jim, heaven knows there ain't no use carrying on about spilt milk. What things we lose in the rock guts of harvest. Wet stems, bagworms suckling fat on fruit you're leaving, or how these days I just remember little of your face, and each time I tell it, it's just a little bit different. What a woman bridges of blues suits each one of her moons. Over bread, a hurling hum, love lettered onto yellow paper, a scattered gin at dusk, a pause to weep, and when she wakes again, grinds toes, wetting the thigh of some good-looking folks, giggles. She does whatever it takes to mend the renting of her history. I, a woman's art as old as violence. Beatrice makes shadow puppetry of Jim on a sundown billboard. Sometimes I feel not much different than the men that would have you as if wood of a black gum tree dried to break fast, and how I shape you according to my need. You like a shadow box, white walls, and Jim, each time you are something quite different. Watch the curl of his ring finger, how I make a dog of you. Plunging through rygos, long throat bobbing for touch of tooth in my coat. And watch closely the storyline of my wrist bend away, how it makes a sundown lover of you, cowarding your papa's lot as a tenant farmer and all them sad stone fruit trees that border on miles. And in one story, and in one story only, I'll concede I once made a moon of my hands, cupped its mouth muddy into the North Canadian River. And beside it, an entire billboard lifted, painted, lettering as if to say, Jim, have you forgotten, have you heard what they do to a man who stands upright? I clapped my hands against the light, pointed north. You was brave, and like that, you flew away. Thank you.